You are watching Leicester Till I Die TV.
Watch us on YouTube.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform.
Or ask your smart speaker
To play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Good evening, good day, good morning, good afternoon, good night, goodbye. Hello, wherever you are in the world. Welcome along. This is LTID TV from Leicester Till I Die. Welcome along. Hope you like the new intro. Thanks, Potticino. I had to do that because you called back Cassidy, so I couldn't have had the rest of the season looking at him on my intro, knowing that he was no longer playing for us. So thanks for that, mate. How you doing? Hey, still basking the glory. 5-0, our biggest win of the season. Could have been more. And I've got to say, fair play to the Stoke podcast that came on last week, because I had done his show as well. And he messaged me and said, would I do a post-match review of my thoughts on Stoke? I did say when I sent it, was that okay? And he hasn't replied back for sort of like 30 hours. So I think I may just have upset him a little bit too much. But we're looking forward, never look back, and we're looking forward to Watford. Now, I thought that the Stoke fan was a little bit maybe pessimistic last week. Well, I was speaking to not the gentleman we got in, Pete, who's joined us from some weirdly named Watford fan site, but we'll come to that later. I was speaking to his colleague earlier, who actually went for the same score prediction as I went for, and I went for a Leicester win. So I think all is not well in the Watford camp at the moment. Not bad, is it? Looking forward to it. Maybe another 5-0. Who knows? Look, I jest. Nate, you're in. Good evening, Nate. How the devil are you all? Good afternoon over there in the US of A. Scott is in. Hi, Scott. How you doing? Hope all your family is well and your partner as well. As it's got there, please smash the likes and subscribe to the channel. Well, let's welcome my guests in. First of all, he's always here on the preview show. I never ask him, he just turns up. But he's another year older, and my God, does he look it. Craig, good evening.
Thanks, Chris. Good evening. Hi, everyone. Yeah, another year older, a rounded figure now. Well, a bit like myself, to be honest. Yeah.
If you are round, God knows what I am, I'll tell you. And I must admit, you're actually not looking too bad for 70. So
I appreciate that.
Hey, what if you can't give your friends a few kind words, what can you do? But did you have a good one?
The worst thing is, Chris, I'm 17. Obviously, you were a couple of years older than me at school, so
you're never supposed to remember that.
Sorry, mate. Yeah.
Yes. You had a good one though.
Yeah, no, it was really good. Yeah, a really good weekend overall. Yeah, no, it was good. Hopefully,
that was bought for you, apart from obviously the 5 goals against Stoke.
Yeah, just spending time with people, and I've got a few nice vouchers to go and spend to do stuff for the rest of the year. And my son decided to buy me a voucher for a golf lesson as well. So I think that may come back to haunt him, to be honest.
Well, I could say he's played golf with you, has he? And he's realised.
Not for a long time, no, but he's sort of made noises about getting back into it. We used to go down the pitch and putt when he was a bit younger, but he never really showed much of an appetite. But he has recently. But I need to spend all of that voucher on putting. That's what kills me. So,
I've never liked the game, to be honest with you, only because I'm crap at it.
It's one of those sports where for one hole you could play it as well as Tiger Woods. It's the other 17 that are the problem.
I like the 19th though.
Yeah.
I just got to say, Stephen is in. He says there's no sound. I've just been thinking of anyone else hear us, and Nate said he can hear fine. So Stephen, it could well be your end. Look, before we came in, we were chatting with Pete, who is the Watford fan that's joining us tonight, and he did say, and he did make the point that sometimes you need certain things that sort of kickstart a change for your club, and maybe that semi-final of the playoffs was that. I blame my son totally. I was watching it with both my sons, and myself and Simon were we got a penalty, and Simon, Sean, my other son, said we've got to score it first. So I always blame him. Pete, whatever happened after that game? Good evening. How the devil are you?
Good evening. I'm over here. Fine. Thank you very much. Very pleased to be here. Thank you. Yeah, that moment, the obviously everybody remembers it as the Troy Deeney goal. Obviously for us, Knockhart became a pantomime villain because he found that pocket of gravity in Vicarage Road that is very, very heavy. Went down, and then obviously it was a double save and it cleared up. We've seen the videos from obviously the Leicester side, the obvious absolute disappointment, because for us it was this roller coaster that ended up in the right direction, and for you guys it was the opposite end. We then went to Wembley and lost 1-0 to a goal scored by a Mr. Kevin Phillips, who we might end up talking about at some point. Comment to both these parishes, but most people, or almost every Watford fan, will say that we'll take that one crystallised moment for us, which was just incredible. I mean, it was 30 seconds and everybody sees it. But of course, the flip side is, I'm sure every time it comes on, you guys must go, oh, Christ. Forward wind, it was probably about 9 months, I think, that when you came down to ours and you had, again, Nigel Pearson in charge, and Knockhart came down and blew us off the bleeding park, and you did us 3-0. And some bright spark in the Watford PR department and comms decided they were going to play up that section. And they had the Harry the Hornet, our mascot, recreate the goal. And we were all sitting there. I mean, all football fans know it. You're all sitting there going, what are you doing? Don't do that. You'll annoy them. Why are you doing that? 3-0 later, of course, there you go. Of course, you went up. The rest is history, obviously. Yeah. So, as I say, it's your bounce moment. You kind of recovered from that beautifully. So, fair play. Well played.
Craig, just before we come on to tell us where you're from, Pete, Craig, sounds like Leicester's 9-0 over Southampton when they came back to us after that win.
To be fair, I think our bounce was a little bit better, getting promoted, going on and winning the league, than their beating us 1-0. Just a little. But
it was, but what I was getting at was the fact that after we beat Southampton 9-0, they came to our place just before the teams came out of the stadium. They played all 9 goals. And we were like, why are you doing that? I think we lost, was it 2-0 or 3-0, something like that?
I thought it was 1-0. I thought it was Danny Ings. It might be 2-0. But I think the thing is, it shows a lot about your team and your club, doesn't it? That you can take a moment and you can collectively decide that that's not going to happen again and then come back stronger, because it would have been the easiest thing in the world for Southampton to sack Arsene Hootel at that time, but they didn't. They saw a bigger picture. Obviously, it didn't work out longer term, but he was a decent manager for them. But they galvanised themselves good enough to come back and get a win against us. So fair play to them for that. But it does show you can go one of two ways. And say it didn't work out that great for Watford, but I'm sure your time will come again.
Pete, tell everybody where they can find you, and it's at this point that you may want to go over to Pete's channel and leave a few comments. Nice comments.
Any good sniper rifle will find me. That's fine. We are Do Not Scratch Your Eyes or DNSYE _ podcast on Twitter, and we are on and we can be found where you find all your podcasts, and DNSYE _ podcast again on YouTube, etc. All the normal stuff, for all of those Leicester fans who are looking to enjoy the emotional turmoil of Watford fans. We're there to service you, no problem.
Well, it's very kind of you. I'll
worse
clear
off.
a few days in my diary to be serviced. I'll make a note of that. Scott says, "Hi, Pete. Welcome to the channel."
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, sir.
Now, like I said, I was doing the every 5 o'clock on Thursdays now on TalkSport 2. There is the EFL. Podcast show on TalkSport 2 when Do Not Scratch Your Eyes for Watford, let myself for Leicester and other championship clubs go on, and we have a bit of a chat, don't we, and a bit of a laugh, and we went on previewing the game earlier. I mean, I'm trying to say this not sarcastically, but was it Carl that was from your?
It was Carlos,
Carl, yeah. He didn't sound overly enamoured at the moment with Watford.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is the host of the EFL Network show on there is Justin, and there's the three of us. There's Justin, Carl, and myself. And actually, Carlos is normally the kind of reasonably optimistic one. Justin, who kind of hosts it now, if you've been speaking to him, cool, blimey, what a trough of emotion you'd have been in there. It's not going particularly brilliant at the moment. We are in that. It's like that difficult second album, isn't it? The second season after being relegated from the Premier League. If you don't bounce back, which obviously you would expect quite reasonably to be doing so. So, well done and congratulations, and enjoy that when you get there, which I'm sure you shall. We are in that kind of thing whereby it's a little bit like you're on the Titanic and the lifeboats have already gone overboard and you're looking at the cello wondering if it'll float. That's kind of how we are at this minute in time. We've basically kind of jettisoned a number of players last season when we came down. This year, literally today, the accounts came out, and we are kind of, as we see the number of decent players that we have who we can make money on, we see the fact that we're trading at a trading loss. A pretty hefty one per week, and without those players to trade and to sell, and therefore to kind of cover that, it's a sticky wicket. We've made a profit this year, but you then look at the dwindling resources and go, well, we either have to mend that hole in the bucket, or we have to go and find some players in order to carry on this trading model. So it's a difficult kind of one to fix. Do you save money, or do you speculate to kind of grow it and kind of build some profitability into it, and have a credible competitive team in the Premier League? In the Championship. I should say, hopefully make a charge for the Premier League at some stage.
I mean, you've not known, and I did make the joke, which went down like pork at a Jewish wedding on the talk show about Watford being up and down, and I know you'd had the period in the Premier League, but I almost felt sorry for you guys earlier that I wanted to get Gary Lineker to send the £10 back to Elton John to help you out, but you're not known as a big spend club, and that you came up. Well, after you went down, you came back up, and then you went back down again. You didn't spend sort of any money to try and stay up. Why do you find yourself in this position?
You have to look at. I mean, you have to look at every club to actually see what its real traditional hardcore supporter base is. And we've probably got something like 16,000 support. We've got a 20 to 22,000 seater stadium, depending on how much the stewards allow you to fill all of the seats these days, because that seems to be whittled down at an increasing rate. But until Graham Taylor came in, and I appreciate when you talk to Watford, you either talk about Troy Deeney, you talk about that goal, we've done that, and you talk about Elton John and Graham Taylor. But until the Graham Taylor first period in the late 70s and early 80s, we were a bottom two division side. We were Division 4 and Division 3 South and North, as it was in that split. We'd only ever had 4 seasons in the top 2 divisions, at that point. That was our natural position. And they have changed that so that since they came along and since 1978, we have not spent more than 2 seasons outside of the top 2 divisions. Our natural place is a championship club if we are well run and we are kind of doing well. If something happens to kind of coalesce and really kind of the rubber hits the road, we've made kind of a few little kind of mountain climbs into the Premiership, basically had our asses handed to us on a plate and then been thrown back out again until the Potsos came along. And of course, the Potsos and Watford are ridiculed for firing a manager. Put it this way: Hasselhoodle wouldn't have got to half time before being fired if he was a Watford manager at that particular point. We do go through them like I go through hot dinners, and as you can see, I do a lot of hot dinners. It's a question of, we also have to acknowledge that whilst all of this strangeness goes on, 5 years in the Premiership, under Graham Taylor, our sum total of our stay in the top flight until he departed and went to Aston Villa, but we won't mention them, obviously, was 6 years in the Premiership, two FA Cup semi-finals and an FA Cup final. Well, okay, we went up for 5 years, came down, went back up, but they got 6 years in the Premiership. We've had 2 semi-finals and we got a final. And then we obviously hit Manchester City on one of the regular days when they would absolutely spank us senseless. But that is success for Watford. And for clubs such as Watford and, the likes of, carrying on that conversation, and Norwich, and indeed Leicester for quite some time, that was seen as success. But of course, what you lot went and did was upset all of that by winning cups and glory and trophy and wonderfulness and stuff. Well, no, you have become, and we mentioned, and obviously sorry to mention the tragedy, but we were the first away team to come up to your place after that dreadful incident with the helicopter crash, and obviously that was. And we have a guy called Roy Moore at Watford who runs a thing called the 1881, and it's like the supporting section, and they do banners, everything. And he put out a GoFundMe because he said, "Look, here's the design. This is what we want to do." And for anybody who was there, it basically said, to Fisheye and to Leicester, thanks for allowing everybody to dream. And that's what you guys did. And that's what he did for you and more. And I know you have an appreciation of that. But at that moment, it was actually, rivalry goes out of the window at that particular point. You need someone to play and you need somehow to enjoy it. And that was how it felt. The GoFundMe for that went through the roof. And I think a lot of monies went to Leicester charities rather than because of the, and another banner for everybody else who was lost. Obviously, Vishai got the main kind of attention, and quite rightly. So, look, you've changed the dynamic as to what can be expected, but that doesn't change what Watford is, and we are in essence a championship club who has an owner that, when they first came in, were doing things really radically, really differently. We were able to kind of enjoy this multi-club kind of model, but that was not 2012, 2014. It's now a little bit old hat, and it's a bit more difficult to do it these days. So that's where we are.
Craig, I mean, we know about filling empty seats. We played Stoke at the weekend, and it was like, where's Wally? Trying to find their fans, and they were at home. Our natural space. I mean, do you see our natural space now as the Premier League? I mean, I still don't see us. Yes, I think what we did when we won that thing behind me there was to help every team to dream. I don't know that it'll ever be allowed to happen again by the bigger clubs, but I still think of us as this mid-sized club. I don't think of us as a big club, even though we've done the FA Cup, quarterfinals of the Champions League and Premier League. Where do you see Leicester's natural space now?
It's funny because I think it may well be a generational thing that we've seen as down in the second division, as it were, or the Championship, much more than we've seen as in the upper echelons. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think if you take clubs now on a sort of 10, 15-year cycle, let's say even a 20-year cycle, then we probably belong in the Premier League. We had that period under Martin O'Neill, I think, where we had 4 top 10 finishes in a row.
League Cups.
Yeah, then we were a little bit up and down, and then we've come back. We were up and down, up and down, up and down. Then we had, the last 10 years, not only winning it, but then following it up with, Champions League quarter-final, 2 5th place finishes and a cup, and a Community Shield or whatever. So I think in the big scheme of things, and you can understand why the younger generation feel that our rightful place is in the Premier League, and that's why it became so difficult and so toxic when it looked like we were going to lose it after what was essentially one pretty bad season. We hadn't been great in the 2 before, even though we'd finished pretty high. But it always seems the way with Leicester. If we have a bad season, we go. We don't get away with it to rebuild next season like a Crystal Palace or somebody like that. And when you look at teams that are and have been in the Premier League for quite a while, I think it's fair to say that we belong in that sort of lower level of the Premier League. But
my worry is, and bear with me when I say this, that we are, and it's taken me until now to kind of understand Manchester United fans. We say that Manchester United fans are very we expect to win because we are Man United. But when you come to think how long their success was, Craig, under Sir Alex Ferguson, a lot of these kids don't know any different. No. They don't remember the days before Alex Ferguson when they were no different to Liverpool, getting close but never quite winning anything. And I see that with some of the younger Leicester fans that sort of haven't really known us other than, the couple of seasons before we went up, we had the playoff, and then we absolutely romped that division. They've only really known success.
Yeah, because if you take, as I say, the success of when we won the championship to go back up, then we struggled, but we had that great, the
end of the
win
season
over Man United. For instance, we had the win over Man United, and then we dropped off, but then we had the great escape, which goes into folklore as well, and then followed it up. So even that relegation battle, was a successful thing in the end, and is talked about in the same breath. Virtually every time you talk about winning the league, it's followed up with, and we had the great escape, the year before, as if that one set us up for the next year. So yeah, there is a generation who have not seen anything different.
Because we carried on. I know we changed manager, but the way we ended that season when we stayed up was title-winning form.
It was like a perfect storm of, we had a team who, for the first 3 months of that season, none of our team would have got in anyone else's team. In any of those sort of top 6 clubs, none of them would have taken any of our players. We picked them up. We had Robert Huth and Wes Morgan. They're not, the centre halves of top 6 teams. Danny Simpson, who struggled and was a cast off. Christian Fuchs that nobody had heard of. We were a ragtag. For the first couple of months, Kante couldn't get in the side either. We had our Swiss player who was pretty poor. But it was just that perfect storm of something clicked. They found a way to play. They found what worked for us. And yet everybody else had a little bit of an off day, but you beat what's in front of you, and we beat them. And it's still just, you still have to pinch yourself that it actually happened to us.
Oh, you do. It's still a pleasure to put that particular DVD on. And of course the following season as well. It's one of those, I remember where we were when, I think we were away at Spurs, or home to Spurs when we managed to Sunderland, wasn't it? It was Sunderland where we managed to stay up. But I want to go on to managers. Yes, you knew this was going to come, Pete, basically because I went through the running order with him before the show, so he no surprises coming up.
Have we fired another one since we've been on air? God.
Well, that is my worry, because I have done the artwork and I have got the thumbnail ready just in case to stick another picture in. But yeah. This guy's got a gold watch, hasn't he? It's been there since May, but You know, there's been managers with bigger win percentages than that have been fired. Why is this the guy that they decided to stick with, or have they decided to stick with him?
Well, we were 21st in the league. I mean, we started off the season like a house on fire with in the first 45 minutes against QPR, we were 4-0 up. And we thought, hello, what have we got here? This is incredible. But we've later decided to call that the Gareth Ainsworth effect because QPR were really genuinely that shocking, which was odd. And then everything kind of stumbled a bit, and it really went in the trough, and we were down at around 21st when the club gave him an extended contract. And of course, anybody who knows anything about Watford knows that, yes, we do indeed fire our managers / head coaches, as we like to call them, on a pretty reasonably regular level. 3 or 4 managers a season has not been the exception, put it that way. So it was odd, because whenever we fire a manager, and I don't know if you do it or if you've had enough to see the trend, but Watford would always stick up a picture, and on the website there would always be a picture of the corner flag, and so to the point where it became kind of, oh, hello, the corner flag's appearing, what's this? And they put a corner flag up, and we all thought, oh no, and it was announcing they'd actually extended his contract, and then of course everybody was like going, why? What? Anyway, the reason being is because the owners and the managers are pretty, if not hands-on, they're all based up at the training ground, so they see what goes in and what goes on day in, day out, and they were impressed with what he was doing. He's a fairly kind of if you've ever seen one of his press conferences, chances are you won't want to watch it a second time because he's a fairly kind of comes across as either fairly aggressive or fairly kind of, I don't think I want to meet him on a dark night, put it that way. And I think basically what he did was he whipped a lot of our players that we have had in the last 4 or 5 years. We have had a dressing room that sucks from a culture point of view. It's been players downing tools, and therefore the manager goes because we can't replace the whole dressing room, etc., etc. And that's been for a long time. He came in and has seemingly been given the nod of approval in terms of what he's doing. Is the football great? It's not what we expected. With Valerian Ismail, if anybody remembers him at Barnsley, then he was at West Brom, then he was at Besiktas. West Brom and Besiktas don't speak that highly of him. Said that he had one way of playing and no other. We've seen a different way of him playing. Is it better? We're not sure. We thought we were going to get somebody who was going to be playing very direct, very high intensity, very high pressure football. That's not what we've had. We don't play with that level of intensity. There's a lot of playing around the back and keeping the ball and trying to work opportunities. But that's because whilst the club have supported him by not sacking him, they haven't really supported him in terms of giving him the players that he would need to play what we term Val ball. He hasn't got the players who can do that, so he's had to improvise. So I think a lot of people are pretty chuffed that we've got somebody who, one, has put a bit of discipline in. We had a thing whereby people were dropped from the starting lineup to the bench, or from the bench out of the first team squad if they turned up late for meetings. This was the level of the discipline problem. And we were talking about meetings at 2:00 in the afternoon, where they've been in the place since 9:00, but still walks in 15 minutes late. It's a basic lack of respect. And we had that happen 4 times this season. That was early on. It hasn't happened so much, or it certainly hasn't been reported so much of late. So we think that discipline is liked. We think that, as I say, he's somebody who can clearly go into the dressing room and say, this isn't great. But there's lots of things that aren't great. His substitutions aren't brilliant. But then again, we have now got a second half squad made up of 22 players. 22 senior players is our squad. We are as thin as you could expect. We have got midfielders whose legs have already gone. And he can't rotate them. We played, basically the other night at Southampton. We expected an under-21 side to be put out. No, it was the same lot. So we got 22. You name 20 in a match day squad. He just rotates the same pack, but he can't. There's not an awful lot he can do. We got two injuries in that first team squad who are trying to come back. What can he have? What can he do? The one signing we made in the January, who'll be interesting to see how long he gets against you guys, is Emmanuel Dennis, who, when we went up, was the one person who kind of lit the place up, but also frustrated. He's one of those mavericks who can do some great things, but can be, completely selfish on occasion. So it all started going wrong for him when he wasn't allowed to go to the African Cup of Nations, which is now going on. He was selected by Nigeria, but they failed to put in a request for him until it was too late. And we were like fighting for our lives. We just brought in, Claudio Ranieri, who to Watford fans is not what he is to Leicester fans. I can tell you that much, because he basically came in and was like an absentee landlord. He just didn't bother at all. And his form plummeted away. But we've brought him back in on loan. He's sacrificed supposedly north of 40 grand a week to be able to kind of come in and play. But his fitness isn't there. He's been at Istanbul Besiktas and I looked fitter when he first turned out in his first game, and that really is safe. But he's coming back to hopefully some level of fitness. But he wasn't taken to Southampton because he needs to get, training sessions in his legs. So we've got 22, and 3 of those are wobbly in terms of fitness, and the rest of the midfield, as I say, have hollow leg syndrome. Would really be nice to have a little bit more flexibility to switch it up.
It's funny you talk about the way that you're playing and trying to play out from the back. And I remember my overriding memory of the first game, and I know you may come on to this, Chris, and maybe act as a nice little segue for you. I remember watching that first game at the King Power against Watford and saying to my son, this is like an old-fashioned team. On that particular day, whether that was how you'd played earlier on in the season, it was like, this is an old-fashioned team that are going to try and bully us. They're very physical. Everything was physical. And I said to him, I said, this is a team, and this manager, if this is the team that he set up, there's no way that you're going to get relegated, but there's no way you're going to get in the playoffs. This looks like a manager who thinks and knows that the club needs 2 or 3 seasons of almost solidity and just settling down, and we're going to play the way that we're not going to get beat week in, week out. And if we get enough wins, fair enough. But it was a very, very much the team you put out looked like a team of bruisers, I must admit.
I think one of the things that we saw at that point was when we had that initial trough near the start of the season, the thing that picked up for us was not the last international window, but the one beforehand. So we've lost something like 4 games in 21 in the last, but the last 3 we've lost. It's that sort of kind of problem. So at the moment we are in a trough. At that particular point, one of the highlights of the season was, and I appreciate the words highlight of the season and Jake Livermore have probably never been used in the same sentence before. So don't adjust your sets. We signed him and went, why are we getting him? Kind of 34. What's he going to do for us? And he came in at the start of the season against Stoke away and was simply awful. He was not close to it. And he kind of went away, and we thought, well, obviously the manager doesn't fancy him. No, the manager was getting him fit. And at that point, he has stepped into the team and been exactly what we wanted. I can't speak highly enough of his application and how he's played and how he's helping people. And he sat, with you guys when we played you, as he does in front of the back 4, and he just basically kills space and does all of that ugly stuff. Mm-hmm. Right, that absolute definition of what you just described as was absolutely spot on. But he was the one coordinating it. He went off on 65 minutes. You scored on the 75th, and then you got the Vardy penalty in the 90th, and that was no coincidence. I'm not saying you wouldn't have broken us down. Of course, you may well have done, absolutely. But the fact that when he's not there, it leaves a great big Jake Livermore-sized hole in Watford at the moment. So he's been, I would suggest, one of, if not the stories of the season. Him and our substitute goalkeeper, which I'm sure we'll get onto. Because
he's almost like, he sounded like the Ross Barkley of the Championship.
You would pick out a player from that place. Haven't forgiven you guys for lending Kieran Dewsbury Hall to that lot. Never mind. He's gone in and he's been more than we could possibly expect. and he's shown how a mature player can make a huge influence in a dressing room. And it was the game against you guys where Vardy got pulled down and Backman, who was our captain, nobody really liked having him because we said, well, with the rules this season, only the captain can talk to the ref. And if the ref is 65 yards that way, how are you doing that precisely? Well, he came herring out again. He did one against Stoke and he did one, against you guys, where he comes out and he kind of grabs the ref as if he's kind of frantically there because he's just run, and he gets a booking for it. And then, of course, he brings out, good grief. Anyway, the question was, who's the natural captain? And everybody thought Jake Livermore, but it didn't. It went to Wesley Hoot, who is our left-sided Dutch centre-back, who is definitely a part of the tactic that we play. He's the person who passes it forward more than anybody else, most certainly. And he has a great diagonal ball on him. But he's been the captain, but he's so influential, I should say, both in the defensive element and also in going forward, that Livermore has picked up a lot of the captain-like mentoring elements and no, not there, you be here, kind of that you would expect from a captain. So if he's there, the problem is he's 34. We have to manage his minutes. So there you go.
Coming back onto the managers, Craig. I mean, well, we're top of the league. We've won more games than anybody else. We've lost less as anybody else. We scored more goals than anybody. We've conceded less goals than anybody. We've got the biggest goal difference ever. Over everybody else in the league. Boring Enzo. Apparently, it needs to be booed. I mean, thoughts on that?
I think it's been built. I think it's been blown out of proportion. To be honest, I was at the game against Swansea, which is where the sort of frustration came out. But I think fans on that particular game had a right to be frustrated. We won that game 3-0. It was a comfortable game. But the tactics that we employed in the first 20 minutes against a team who played the highest line in the championship, their back line was on the halfway line. In the championship, that's kind of ridiculous. But they pushed and pushed and pushed. And we were getting in behind. We got the early goal. We could have had 2 or 3 more. Daka somehow managed to miss from the goal line virtually. And then after 20 minutes, again, Scott turned to me and said, we're getting loads of success here. Watch us not do it for the rest of the game. And you know what? We didn't do it for the rest of the game. And particularly in the second half, they pushed right on us, which allowed their midfield to push onto our midfield. And so we had no space. Their forwards were pressing us on the edge of our own box. So we were struggling to get out. 25,000, 30,000 people in that stadium can watch it and think, we've got 3 forwards. Just pop the ball over the top. They're on the halfway line. That's where the frustration came from. The number of times that our wingers made out-to-in runs thinking the ball's going to come, and it didn't come. They turned back and went backwards again. And it's very difficult to sit there and not make any noise when that's happening over and over. It wasn't booing. It was just that, oh, for goodness sake, there's another one. And it wasn't just the fans, the players. Mavididi was throwing his hands in the air the whole time. So that's where the frustration came from. Not we don't appreciate the football that's being played, but sometimes you've got to react to what the opposition are doing as well. Yeah. We were always told that we played around at the back to try and draw teams out who were having a low block. That's why you pass it around. You try and draw them out, eke them out to create some space. The other way works as well. If a team is pushing right up to the halfway line to block you in your own half, you put balls in behind to force them to go backwards and create space in the midfield. You can't just play it one way, and that's where the frustration came from. And I think it's just been blown out of, and it's pointed at the older fans, who just want it hoofing forward. We don't want it hoofing forward. We want us to take opportunities that are presented to us by the opposition. But I'm quite happy the way that we're playing and everything that we've done. It's just there are pockets of games where you do get frustrated.
Oh, I mean, I did the watch along, and I may well have lost my temper at a few of the moments of passing it around, and had to put a little pound in the swear jar. And there's a very thin line between a long ball and a superb pass. So,
exactly. Exactly. Liverpool do it. Liverpool are the best at it, and we are set up very much the same in terms of. Particularly when Mane was there, they would Mane on the left, Salah on the right, and their fullbacks or Van Dijk would play diagonal balls in behind the fullbacks, and they'd be away. And we are set up to do exactly the same, but we don't do it, and that's where the frustration comes from.
As an outsider, but as an observation, if I may, it was really interesting early this season because, of course, the TalkSport thing means we get to talk to opposition, and obviously we do one and you do one. It's great, but it's really interesting to hear. And one of the ones that we spoke to was Luke at Swanscast with Swansea, and of course they brought Duffy in earlier in the season, and having seen Russell Martin depart, I'm not a great lover of Russell Martin, just that's his personality. But there you go. Duffy came in and started trying to. Hey, do you mean Southampton?
Oh, am I? Sorry, Southampton. Yeah. Am I getting confused?
I don't mind the Luton Barbs, but get it right when you do it. It's the fact
Hashtag fail.
he turned around and said, Duffy came in and tried to make them more direct. And he said, culturally, we at Swansea like to see the ball on the deck and it being passed around and built up. That's our culture. We don't like it going direct. We at Watford, because we were brought up on Graham Taylor, and when you're talking about how Liverpool play, when we played, we got the moniker of you're a long ball team, but we had people like Ian Bolton who would play that if he was wearing a Liverpool kit at the time, and Alan Hansen was playing it, it would have been seen as a long pass. But I think what happens is you get used to a certain culture as well, and of course you've had the best years of Jamie Vardy, who has absolutely pillaged any backline that comes up towards the halfway line, and I can imagine everybody looking at it going, well, we know we can score like this. We know that it becomes part of your culture to be able to utilise that. And when you have somebody who is, a Pep disciple and becomes almost fundamentalist about, no, we're going to keep the ball and we're going to change the way we're playing, I can fully understand why you'd want to do it, because we've been, with our manager, we would like to see us go more direct, but he just doesn't have the armoury to do it.
I'm going to move on.
Of being able to beat them in a number of ways. Crikey.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on because I did say that this part of the show probably lasts about 45 minutes. We're up to 43 and only 2 sections in.
Okay.
So if anybody's on a promise tonight, you might have to let the poor lady down. And please forgive me, Pete. Watford have so many managers; it's easy to get confused over them, isn't it?
That's all right. Russell Martin, we haven't got him yet. We've got him ready in May.
Back at you, mate. I was, of course, thinking Rob Edwards.
I never think Rob Edwards.
No, apparently not. Apparently not. I'm going to just say quickly though, before I'm going to do my bit now. But no, talk while we're on the managers. Nigel Pearson. What the hell did you? He was literally about to possibly keep you up that season, and you sacked him.
Nigel Pearson was complex. I think most Watford fans absolutely love him, but what happened with us with that? It wasn't Nigel Pearson. It was COVID. He was doing a great run. We beat Liverpool 3-0 and ended their undefeated reign forever. And then the next game was Palace away. We lost 1-0, didn't turn up. COVID was basically, we didn't know this, but was ripping through the manager and the team. And when we had Operation Restart, we simply didn't. We didn't restart. We had the manager was down. He ended up with 2 bouts of COVID in and around that time. It went through the squad and we didn't start. The rumours are that in our last game but 2 was away at West Ham. We needed to win. If we won, we would be pretty much okay. And we were 3-0 down by half time. And the suggestions were that there was an altercation with himself and a player at half time that didn't go particularly well. I don't know whether or not the player was dressed as an ostrich or not, but if he wasn't, you get the idea of probably how the tone went.
Oh, no, we know Nigel, don't we, Craig?
We loved him. We loved him. He's the manager with the largest forearms in the universe. I mean, he was absolutely superb.
Fighting bears and wolves.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yeah. We turn around and go, no, it wasn't wolves. They were wild dogs. And watch the press back go, what? Really? It wind up brilliant. No, so we liked him, but something happened that they then changed, and it was the last 2 games were under our interim manager.
I think it's fair to say that Nigel doesn't suffer fools.
Oh no, not at all.
And whether that be a player or a journalist, you're getting it.
I went down when he first joined us. There was he wanted to meet the because he brings the club together, which is the first thing he tried to do, and he did two meet and greets with groups of club. And I asked a question about whether or not he was going to keep on Hayden Mullins, who'd been the interim manager, and the withering look he gave me. Oh my lord, crikey! And then I had to shake his hand at the end, and all I could see was forearms. I mean, we really like him. We really liked him, and that's it. We liked him far more than we liked Ranieri because he just did nothing for us, I'm afraid.
Let it go, Pete.
I've let it go. I've let it go. I'm now on to Robin Hood. Don't worry, I'm processing it.
I can't show our season form, Craig, because it looks like we're deadlining because it's just sort of one line going across the top. I'm sorry, I'm not having a dig there. You've got to understand what the season we had last season. It's nice just to win again. But from Watford's point of view, finished 11th last season. That's where you are at the moment. 2 seasons it looks like you maybe not going to be fighting for promotion. But Scott asks here, do you feel you have enough in terms of, with squad depth we've talked about, the answer to that is no, Scott, and good enough manager to stay up this season? And also, do you see Watford challenging for the playoffs? And talk us through your season.
The squad depth is a huge thing. Obviously, the transfer window shut this time last week, and we were shocked, nay, horrified to have 3 players go out and 1 come in, and the one come in but the one player who came in, as I say, it has not been fit, and we already only had 24 players, so we have 22 senior players, 3 of which are injured. So when you go to Southampton and you're bringing in an 18-year-old to sit on the bench, not because you're trying to push him forward or to try to give him development time, but instead because you don't really have the under-21s to bring them in and kind of allow them to play what is a dead rubber really for us of an FA Cup game. Because let's face it, we were never going to go to Anfield and turn over anything. So I think we've probably got enough not to go down. We have got a few little gems in there. Ryan Andrews at right back, and we'd done well enough until these latest 3 games. The question about the manager becomes the last 5.5 games we have not scored a goal in open play, and in the last 3 games we have not even had a shot on goal. We have a forward line that is ineffective. Let's be kind. Let's just call them ineffective. One who works very hard for the team, one who scores goals but can't do anything other than if he's in the box. Other than poke the ball in the back of the net, he does. Bless him, he does nothing. We hope that he will improve, but not sure we'll have the time. My guess is we'll probably end up in the upper reaches of the bottom half. I don't think we'll be hitting.
I actually said to the Stoke fan last week that, if you remember, Craig, I said, I think there's 3 worse teams than you. I don't think you'll go down. And I have now changed that to there's 1 worse team than Stoke, and they could easily go down. They were that awful. But looking at the current form at the moment, Craig, let's have a look at Leicester first. On away form, we're second. We beat Stoke 5-0, beat Swansea 3-1, Birmingham 3-0 in the Cup. Drew with Ipswich Town, and they seem to be kind of sliding down. I can't wait for this game because it gets that Coventry match off the latest form. But look, 3 wins out of 5, only lost 1. That's not bad, is it?
No, and Ipswich, I think on both games, we've thrown it away in the dying embers of the game. We should have won both of those. Birmingham, we rode our luck. I think it's safe to say in the cup game in the first sort of 30 minutes.
Half, I was in London, we didn't actually see it.
Yeah, we put out a fairly young team. He changed it at half time, which was good. He recognised that there was no way we could continue with the starting lineup that he put out and get away with it. And we were really comfortable in the second half. Swansea, we were comfortable. As I say, you know, we should and could have scored more than that. And Stoke speaks for itself, and the reaction of most Stoke fans that I've heard since, and you know, some of the videos on YouTube. There's a few entertaining vlogs on YouTube at the game, and just the reaction of the fans as the goals are going in is quite amusing. Yeah. But you know, we can't knock it. You know, we will, but we shouldn't really knock it at the moment. And I expect this to be a tough game, though, just because of what I said about the first game. I think you know, he's putting together a team that will finish exactly where you said. You know, you won't get near the playoffs, or probably not, and you won't go down. And I think it's a team that's just going to try and physically, you know, outdo teams and win by the odd goal.
Would you take
so
a draw?
I expect it to be tight. No,
I'm only joking. I'm only joking. But look, you know, no disrespect to any of these teams, but you know, Stoke, Watford, Sheffield Wednesday. For us, it should be a nice run, shouldn't it?
It should be. I mean, if you're going on current form, you know, it is no disrespect. It is on form. You know, if it was reversed the other way, we'd be thinking differently. But you know, it is a run of games where we can hopefully get enough points on the board to allow ourselves the room to have a little wobble if we do have one, when we've got the likes of Leeds and Southampton still to come.
Yeah, I mean, Pete, like you say, you lost 3 to Watford. You managed to only let Coventry put one past you, unlike us, let 3 go in. But you drew with Sheffield Wednesday.
That was Cardiff, not Coventry.
Oh, sorry, I should have gone to Specsavers. Sorry, my bad. You drew with Sheffield Wednesday, probably a game that you know, on paper again you should have won, but a good draw for you against Southampton and against Bristol. But based on home form, 24th in the form table.
Yeah, our home form is not good. Our away form got turned away with a win away at Swansea, and since then I think we've kind of gone about 7 games unbeaten, because the 2 Southampton games that you read there are both in the FA Cup, obviously the draw and then the replay. So the league form is a little bit better than that, but the home form is, and we've kind of discussed whether or not it's a psychological thing, whether it's a fact that we are better at beating teams who come on to us, in which case it might make Saturday kind of interesting, because you're going to have a lot of possession. You're going to want to come and play, you know, in our half, and we if we sit deep, it might open for us to break. If we had anybody really with pace, other than perhaps Matthias Martins, we you know, you wouldn't be. It might be quite interesting, but as it is, no, I think you'll have too much for us.
Wesley Hoot, we mentioned him before. To be honest with you, I think he made a very good point that, you know, Mads Hermansson just like to sort of get his deck chair out on the edge of the centre circle at some times. And, you know, one of these days he's going to be caught out by that, you know, Rooney, Beckham-esque type shot from the halfway line. Wesley Hoot noticed that, couldn't quite do it against us, but he did do it against Hull, like you said, the following week. Is he likely to be playing?
Oh, he's undoubtedly. He's played every minute of the season.
How's it right? I better just ring Enzo and tell him to warn Mads then.
Oh, well, yeah, no, that's
Mads to stay on his bloody line. Right. Okay.
Well, it was funny because he basically scored this goal from 48 yards, and you just know it's like one of those speculative. You hit it, and then the manager came out and said, "Oh yeah, we've been working on that." And you just go, "What, really?" And then he did actually say, "But it was 2 weeks ago because your keeper is known for coming out higher up than his centre backs." And you go, "Really? Wow, okay." So yeah, who knows? But I think you'll probably be. If he comes out when you've got good levels of possession or in the opposition half, then you have got to worry. But no, I don't.
Can you see him getting caught out, Craig, one game?
Oh, at some point, I think. I think when you play so many passes, as a goalkeeper. I mean, we saw it the other night. I can't remember which game it was. but there's someone played a shocking pass. I think it was against us. The keeper played a shocking pass, and the keepers are being told to do it now. There's a clue in the name. You keep the goal, you keep the ball out. That should be a goalkeeper's first thing. But now that's not it, is it? You've got to be a footballer, as a goalkeeper these days. And I haven't got a problem with that. It's when you pass a ball from anywhere on the pitch, your first thought should be, if I give it him, what's he going to do with it next? And I don't think goalkeepers think that way. They just think, oh, I can give it him. Yeah, the fact that he's going to have two players on him. So, yeah, I think at some point he's going to get done. He's a great goalkeeper and he is a great shot stopper. He pulled off a fantastic double save against Stoke, which would have made it, I think, 4-1. So it wouldn't have affected the game. But, yeah, I think some of his passing is a little bit dodgy. He is good on both sides, so he can play right and left foot. But
he's young, isn't he? I mean, we've got to say that we are only 30 games into this sort of project, and let's not run too much before we can walk. But
I like it. He's been one of the best signings that we've had this season.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Who'd have thought we'd have been 30 games in and we'd be talking that our first two goalkeepers, Hermansen and Stolchak, or even him as well. I can never say that name. Jacob, whatever. Right, this one's for you, Craig. So bear with me here on this one, Pete. Little quiz for you here, because he does like a little quiz. No, it's not. Oops, a little quiz in the fact that I got rid of you. Right, above you there, you can see how many points we've got at the moment so far this season. What you can then see is every second place team back to 16-17 and what their number of points were to go up, ranging from 93 for Brighton to 88 for Bournemouth, or 83 for West Brom. The average is 89. Can you see us not doing it?
As a Leicester fan, obviously my natural reaction is to say, yes, of course we can blow it. We've got previous. We've blown fourth spot twice. When we look fairly nailed on. But it pains me. It doesn't pain me to say it. I'm dubious of saying it, but I don't think we'll be that bad, to be honest. I don't think we'll be bad enough. Other teams around us might do well. I think Southampton are going to be, Southampton could catch us. It wouldn't surprise me. And I think they'll come up with us. But I don't think the others are consistent enough to take advantage of us if we lost 3 or 4 games in a row. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to lose 3 or 4 games. And I'd be surprised if we let it slip from here. As I've said on previous shows, it would be borderline disaster if we ended up in the playoffs, because getting the players back up to go into a 2-legged semi-final would be really, really tough, I think, after the disappointment of being in the driving seat for so long. I mean, we got 18 points to get to 90.
Yeah.
6 games. I can see us winning 6 more, can't you? So
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Will 90 be enough, though, do you think?
I'm not sure. I think it's going to be at the upper echelons of those numbers, that's for sure. I think Leeds will continue it, but they do throw in a dodgy result, Leeds, now and again.
Yes.
The way they play means they are open at the back. So they've got a couple of players. I mean, if they, if a couple of injuries to them, and I think it would be more devastating than a couple of injuries for us would be. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And I'm going to throw this question at you because was it Jason, the other Watford fan, Pete?
Carl? I think it was Carl. Carl or Justin, one of the two.
Justin, yeah. Justin was the one that was hosting the show, wasn't it? Yeah. And he threw this question at me, and it's very difficult to answer this without sounding cocky. I'm not sure whether I got away with it or not. You'll be able to tell me, Pete. But Craig, are we going to beat the record?
I don't think so. Personally, I don't think so, because I think it's different. It depends how driven the players are, because I think we're going to get to a point where it's mathematically certain that we've got promoted. Can they then push on and get the record? Maybe they are. Maybe they are single-minded enough, and I got a feeling that the manager is, to be honest. But I just think that it's going to be a little bit too much of a stretch.
And as a neutral on that point, Pete, do you see us breaking the record?
No, I don't see you breaking the record. I see you comfortably going up. I love the kind of worry that you might not, but I think you will. The only reason I think you won't is because I think modern players now are like Formula One cars. They get over the finish line and they just collapse. And the toughness and psychology that's previously been in there, I just don't see it. Plus the fact, how many more games are left for you to get what would be 34 points? Because it was 106 points, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's a tall order for anybody. But I think you'll go up because, similar to what Craig said, that I don't think the Championship is very good, and I include us in that. Absolutely, I do. But Leeds, Ipswich have done well, but I think they're kind of pegging out a little bit, and I think yourself and Southampton are good, but we have held Southampton to 2 1-1 draws. Yes, we got gubbed by them this week 3-0, quite rightly, and our lads were a disgrace. But it was in the FA Cup. Yeah. The FA Cup, there was no expectations for them to go down there. We knew we'd blown it because they got a last-minute equaliser against us at our place in the Cup. That was our chance. We didn't get it. We didn't take it. Fine.
We've
tend to see players these days who tend to go, we've done it now. We'll stop.
There is that. You do see that happen with teams, and it's like at the other end is once you're relegated, you're playing with that freedom that, we can just go out and play now, and you suddenly start winning games. I was just looking at the 16 games left, so we could actually get another 48 points. So if we add that onto the 72 we've got, that would give us 120. Now, we're not going to do that, because I don't think we're going to go unbeaten for the rest of the season. I think we have got a loss in us. And we've still got to play Southampton a second time and Leeds a second time as well. But, Craig, we could afford to drop, 100 minus 108. Let's give it a couple of points. We could drop 12 points and still break the record.
Yeah, again, the record for me as winning the Championship is secondary. Your job is to get promoted. I think the other thing to take into account is that there's a lot of these players this season who probably won't be in the Premier League team next season. And I would imagine that the manager will have that once, let's say but once we get over the line, I think he will then start tinkering with his lineup a little bit, and some younger players are going to get some minutes to see, what they're made of. So I don't think it'll be we get over the line and then we continue at that pace going forward. I feel
really bad now, because on the show earlier I quite confidently said I hope I didn't come over too cocky, Pete. But I'm
the balance, remember, Chris, in this partnership.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I did. I wasn't expecting the question, and I hadn't really thought it through, so I just went with my blue tinted spectacles on. If
I could ask a question of you two, would you rather break the record and Maresca be head above the parapet and somebody come in and go, oh wow, yeah, absolutely blew that away, and risk that? Or would you rather just, win the league and and hit 105 points and be quite happy?
I think he's going to have envious eyes on him anyway. To be honest, regardless of whether we break the record or not, I think people have seen how we play, and that's the way that most teams want to play now. So I think if we didn't make it, I don't think he would probably be here next season. There would be too many teams after him. I hope that he is buying into the project. I think the thing with the club is the backside of the club in terms of the training facilities and everything is second to none. And there's not many, even in the Premier League, that can touch what we've got, the infrastructure behind us. So you're not going to better that anyway. What you are going to get better is obviously, bigger clubs coming for him. But I think we can fend off the likes of the Crystal Palaces and that level. And I don't think yet a bigger club, a sort of top 6, top 8 would come for him. Who I could see coming for him is someone like a Newcastle.
Yeah.
And that would cause a problem and make him make a decision, when he's got untouched wealth, behind him and whatever. But
yeah,
if we don't go up, then he's obviously going to, as the manager, the buck stops with him. So maybe one or two teams might look and go, oh, maybe he's not as good as he thought he was.
Leicester fans as I do, Chris. And I'm at the ground. I can hear how toxic it can turn. If we don't get up, they'll want him out. I may be exaggerating, but
I get it. I get the point you're making totally. Yeah. But I think, look, Leicester managers. Look at. I don't like to talk about him, but let's have a look at Brendan Rodgers. 2 top 5 finishes in an FA Cup. He was going to be the next Barcelona manager.
Formerly of your parish as well.
Yes. Yeah. Spurs were going to come in for him and Man United were going to come in for him. And then suddenly, obviously, it goes wrong and he ended up back at some second string Scottish team.
But this is... Sorry, Chris. Yeah, this is what I was saying with the Ipswich fan the other day who I think was doing an ostrich in thinking that there's no way that McKenna's head would get turned, by any club coming in for him because he was going to buy into the project, blah, blah, blah. No chance.
You can buy
teams
into
are going to come for McKenna and he'll go.
You can buy into the project, but look at, who was the guy who went from Brighton to Chelsea?
Potter,
yeah. Okay, but that was a project he had at Brighton. He'd got them into Europe. But when a big club comes knocking, because you get that, and even if you're a failure, he's made more money out of what Chelsea paid him off than he would have probably got at Brighton over the 3 years he had left or whatever. Yeah. They're not bothered. Mourinho's, his pension pot is all his sacking money.
I'd like to know how many Graham Potters there are because he seems to be at every game that's televised. The camera pans the crowd and there's Graham Potter.
Maybe it's just a mask, like Scooby-Doo, whip the mask off and it's Roy Hodgson underneath. But that said, do I want the? Yes.
Surely Hodgson must be the mask. Surely.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to just go up, and I'd take finishing second. But do I want to break the records? Yes, I do, because if we go up as champions, then we have won the second tier more times than any other club ever. We
share it with Man City, don't we?
We do. Yeah. We share it with Man City. And unless the FA get the finger out and relegate them because of FFP, they ain't ever going to be in this division again. So the chances are that we will hold that record forever and ever. Certainly, as long as I'm alive. Do I want to go with the record? Yes, of course I want to break the record. Of course I do. But no, good question. But moving on, Pete. Formation, tactics, and player threats for Watford. I know. Speaking to Carla earlier, he didn't seem to think you'd got a goal threat at all. But
that's unfair. Emmanuel Dennis, who we have signed, if he gets fit, and he will play probably at least half an hour against you, is a quality Premier League threat if he's got the right attitude on. And as I say, he's coughing up a lot of money to try to play his way into kind of a window for people to see him realistically. He can be devastating, but he's just genuinely not fit, not got enough matches in his legs at the moment. In terms of formation, if we take it formation, tactics and players and threats, we will play a 4-3-3 almost undoubtedly, with Jake Livermore at the base. Wesley Hoot will be the left-sided centre-back and will be in charge of progressing the ball more than anybody else. Another player to look out for is Ryan Andrews, who is the son of Wayne Andrews, who was a kind of a 30-game, kind of 5 or 6 goals for Watford striker back in the 90s. And he looked, I would suggest he is going to be one who people will be coming for in the transfer window when it reopens up. He's been a revelation at right back. He can play as a right wing back. He's got genuine pace, very good use of the ball. He's still got a little bit to learn defensively, but the kid's 19, so go figure. In front of Jake Livermore in the midfield, we play a triangle which is basically pointing towards our own goal. So we play with 2 number 8s effectively. One of those will most likely be Ishmael Kone and Tom Deli-Bashiru, although a gentleman called Georgi Chakfatadze, which is why we call him Dave quite often, it saves a lot of time, might also be in there. But he's one of those who can play, when you're playing with that front 3, which we do as well, he can also play kind of wide left on there, and he's a tricky, very technical player and can play either one of those kind of positions. We will probably play with Yasser Asprilla, who's a young Colombian, and I call him a pocket Foden. Again, somebody will come in, and again, no disrespect, you'll have a look at him, and if he performs, I could see you kind of going, oh yeah, no, we'll go and have him. But your lad who plays that position already, who you got on loan, I think you got him with an option for 19 million. I think that's probably yeah. I think he looks tremendous. I think that's probably the safer bet, and knowing our owner, probably the cheaper bet as well. From there, and we'll probably play with Matthias Martins on the left side, and they play as inverted wingers. So they'll be kind of trying to cut in, primarily because both of our forwards, both Mileta Rajovic, who is the guy who can prod the ball in from about 4 feet away, but not an awful lot else, and a guy called Vakun Bio, who will run around and work hard and do all of the kind of back to goal stuff, but will blast the ball into the stand repeatedly. If you could genetically splice the 2 of them, you'd either have a fantastic footballer or somebody who should never look at a football pitch ever. Knowing our luck, we'd get the wrong one. So it's that's a struggle, and we'll see. And it'll be whether or not the aforementioned Emmanuel Dennis gets a run on the right or on the left or in the centre, because he can play all 3 of those. We're hoping that when he gets fit, he will be our default kind of player through the centre, because he's not as big as the other guys, but he can give us something. Tactics is we kind of keep the ball, we kind of move it an awful lot round the back until we see an opportunity to either shoot ourselves repeatedly in the foot. We played a version of suicide ball earlier on in the season that got kind of stopped once Jamie Vardy had fallen over in front of Backman. It was a genuine penalty, that was not a snub, and we got Ben Hamer in as the substitute keeper. He has kept us in games.
There's a name, a blast from the past, Craig.
Yeah, and he's playing like an Indian summer. He's been tremendous. Very few clean sheets, but he makes outstanding saves at key moments, and he's made us a lot of points. So he's a lot of fun. But he's less ambitious, shall we say, with the ball on the deck. He's a little bit more, I'm going to play it a little bit more functionally. Still we play a little bit of that kind of football around at the back. None of us like that either. So it's not just you, but we do that very badly. And the tactics will be kind of, I imagine we will probably sit a little bit deeper this time and try and hit you on the break, because we know you're going to have the ball a lot. We know you're going to come forward, and the threat surely must be to try to pick off in the gaps, because if we come on and we try and play you toe to toe, you've got a midfield that I think is Premier League basically, from what I've seen, including the former Luton loanee. I think they look tremendous. Whether or not you would take them into the Premiership, God alone knows. So we'll see. Player threats: Emmanuel Dennis, Matthias Martins. If he puts it onto his right, he'll curl the ball into the top corner, but whether it's the corner of the goal or the corner of the stand, flip a coin, you work out. And I think young Asprilla, as I say, I call him Poundland Phil Foden. He's got that level of capability in him, and he could be really, really something. But he needs to be in the right team to do it.
I think you said this earlier, Craig, but I think we should play this for Pete.
Let it go, let it
go. Sorry, mate. I mean, for us, Craig, formation is going to be, 3 at the back or 5 when we're defending, isn't it? And to either side of the one up front. Normally we could pick the side, couldn't we? Earlier in the season, sort of 6 weeks in advance. But I was on Luke's channel, Leicester City Down Under, earlier, and he made an interesting choice that he'd started with Hermansen but he'd got Faz and Ricardo on the left and Justin on the right. would you make any changes? I mean, have got 2 games coming up, but this you would think would be the harder of the 2.
So he switched over Justin and Ricardo,
He'd swapped over Justin and Faz,
right?
but Faz, I mean, he's crap on the left unless he's got
Yeah.
Ricardo in front of him. So I didn't see. I did my comment to that was, I'll have some of what you're some of what you're drinking, please.
Is this a view that Vestergaard won't be playing?
He put Cody in the middle.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because
For
of
me,
course,
you
we don't know
tinker
if he's
with
injured,
it.
do we, or not?
Yeah. No, you tinker with it as little as possible, to be honest. And yeah, I don't like Farce. I think Farce has been fantastic this season, to be honest.
On the right.
But yeah, on the right of that, he's much more naturally, right-sided. I don't think you get the best out of anybody when you start moving them from side to side, particularly as defenders. But it'd be interesting. It will be interesting whether he goes with Cody or Ben Nelson. Ben Nelson has been
looks
getting
a great prospect, doesn't he?
He does. And you don't usually get great prospects as a centre half. They usually go and learn a trade somewhere else and they're brought in. It's quite fairly rare for centre halves to come through the system. I know there's a few. The young lad Branthwaite, I think it is at Everton, looks good and he's come through the system. I like him. But Ben Nelson's been getting on ahead of Cody when he's been making substitutions at the moment. So it'll be interesting whether he's got enough trust in him to start and whether he's got enough guile to deal with experienced, more physical players that he's going to face with Watford. I don't know. But I mean, usually the injuries aside, it's flipping a coin over the number 9 at the moment. But Daka seems to be.
Well, I was going to come on to that, but going midfield first, Eunice, Pratt or McAteer?
I've got a feeling he'll go with McAteer again, and it's funny because I talked with Scott about McAteer playing more centrally because I don't think
you spotted his potential very early on in his career, didn't you?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah.
Hey, you're welcome, mate. That's what friends are for.
Well, let me just sort of caveat that by saying that I don't think he's got enough about him as a winger, to be honest. I don't think he's got a trick in him, and I don't think he's got enough pace to be a proper winger. And that's why I thought he would be more dangerous coming through the middle, playing that sort of number 10, because he is a decent finisher and he does sniff out opportunities. He scored a great goal away at Southampton, coming from deep, timing his run perfectly and slotting it in. So I think he's got potential there. So I think he may go there because out of those 3, he's the most likely one who's going to be at the club next season. Eunice is on loan. And Pratt.
I like Eunice. I'd love to.
Yeah, I like him. I like him.
Eunice. I'd like to see him stay.
Yeah, I would. What I think he's got to show a little bit more in this division before you think, he's ready to make an impact in the Premier League. I mean, we saw it before when we had Lookman, who's been doing really well out in Nigeria again. He was a player that we didn't take a gamble on. So I don't know. I think it's on the fence about Eunice at the moment. I do like him, but I think he'll go with McAteer in that role.
And up front, you did mention that Daka, Cannon, Vardy. Every time I say, look, Vardy's career is over, he's not scoring goals. I mean, for God's sake, he's like the bloody Duracell bunny, isn't he? I'm sure
he's what we thought.
Changing room at the end of the game, opens his back and takes the batteries out.
Yeah. But he is what we thought he would be this season. That sort of 20 minutes, when defenders are tired. The last thing they want is Jamie Vardy coming on and he's making an impact in that role. I don't think he's a starter anymore. I think Cannon has looked really good and there's definitely a player there. I think he's almost old school,
Yeah.
He just wants to get a shot off.
Reminds me very much of Steve Howard. Steve Howard.
He reminds you of Steve Howard?
Cannon, yeah.
Well, that's a worry for me because I thought Steve, yeah. I went away to a League Cup game, Leicester away at Man City, and Steve Howard gave singularly the worst centre-forward performance I can ever remember. And I say that because I don't think he left the centre circle in the whole of the game.
One game, Pete. One game, and these Leicester fans never forget. Yeah.
But no, he did score a great header against Leeds that we see at the start of every game.
Who do you start with?
I think he'll start with Daka. I think he's got the shirt now. He's scored in probably 4 out of the last 5 games. He's come back from the African Cup of Nations and he put him straight back in there. But Cannon is a throwback for me. He reminds me a lot of Nunes at Liverpool. He just wants to shoot. He wants to get the ball down, get the ball out of his feet and shoot. But his movement's very good. But he's definitely one for the future. But I think he'll go with Daka.
And Pete, as the opposition fan, when you see the team announced, and if Vardy's not in that starting lineup, we know he got the 2, and we talked about the early game earlier in the show. As an opposition fan, are you like, thank God for that? But then on 75, 80 minutes when he's warming up and his number goes up, he's like, oh shit, no.
Well, Vardy has been a right royal pain in the proverbial for some time to Watford. And of course, bursting through from the halfway line, as we were talking earlier on, and seeing him kind of close in on goal has been, it's been a thing of nightmares for Hornet fans for quite a little while. But I can see and understand why, as a talisman, having him on the bench to bring him on, as you did at our place, your place, sorry, how that would, lift your supporters around to know that he's going to come on. The question is, though, how well does he fit in with the new pattern of play? Because here you've got a player who is not going to be learning new tricks. With due respect to Jamie, I mean, and he's a fine technical player actually in his own right. But we've always seen him bursting, breaking that line and going through. Are they given the freedom to actually go, I'll slot you in on those occasions when you need to, if you bring him on with 10 or 15 minutes to go?
From my perspective, not often enough. And all 3 of our strikers are pretty much the same. They've all got a great turn of pace. They're all very direct. And that's why, I go back to that Swansea game. That's why the fans were getting frustrated, because you've got players who want to run in behind. So, they are having to learn a different way of playing, but I don't think they're alone. I think, I used to play up front when I played, and I would hate to be playing now.
You had a great goal at the King Power, didn't you, once?
No, that wasn't. I have scored at the King Power, but it wasn't that particular one that you're referencing. But I did score from a Muzzy Is It corner. But anyway, but I'd get so frustrated as a centre forward. You run towards a goal, you want a ball delivering first time. You don't want your winger cutting back in and recycling the ball around the edge of the box. And so strikers are having to learn a different way of playing. So those old-fashioned strikers will get frustrated, but I think they still have enough of that little turn of pace that when we do get it right, as we did for I think it was the 4th goal at Stoke when they were coming on. I know you have to remember now, which one was it?
What a first world problem that is now. Was it the 4th? The 5th? Yeah.
But we broke quickly. The ball was played in between the defenders for Justin overlapping from right back. But Vardy was quick enough to show the defenders a quick clean the heels. So when the ball came across, he was the first one onto it. And I think that's how, rather than being direct balls played for him and those central strikers, I think it's about playing in between the fullbacks to get your wingers away, and then they're quick enough to be the first ones to any crosses coming in.
And I think, in fairness as well, you look at a lot of the players have had to relearn this new system. Indeed, he's playing a completely different game to what he was as well. So there's a lot of there's a lot of changes, if you like. So it's not just the strikers. But let's get on to this point. Sorry, we had to get to it eventually, Pete. We'll go to Craig first of all. I think you'll know what mine is, Pete, because I said it, and I say the sad thing is that Carl agreed with my prediction. But Craig, what are you going for?
I think this is going to be a bit of a game of attrition, to be honest. I think we might try and play a lot of. Well, I know we'll try and play a lot of possession football, but I'm not sure that we'll break you down that much. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 to us.
Ooh, right. Now, Pete, I don't think you're going to be quite as down as Carl was.
Oh, I don't think anybody could be as down as Carl, let alone tell a lie. Justin could be. I'm going to agree with Craig because other than the 3-0 defeat that we had in the Cup to Southampton 2 nights ago, other than that game, the only time we've been beaten by more than one goal in the since 3 months. We lost 3-0 to Leeds at their place. We lost 2-0 to Sunderland. Those were much earlier in the season. Those were kind of early October sort of times. Other than a game at home to Bristol City on Boxing Day, I think we've kept it to the odd goal. I know it sounds silly to say that, but nobody's come down and gubbed us, and we've had that kind of reasonable level. The last time somebody scored more than 2 goals other than that occasion was you guys, and you got your goal, the penalty literally in the last knock-in. So I think we'll look to frustrate. I think if we get hold of something, we're not really very good at holding on to it. We tend to concede first and then show a bit of character and come back. I don't think we'll have enough for it, and I think you'll have enough quality to get it. So I'll go. It'll be 2-1 or 3-1, but I'll say 2-1 simply because I should be pro Watford. So there you go.
So is that 2-1 to Watford or 2-1 to Leicester?
No, 2-1 to Leicester. 2-1 to Leicester.
2-1 to Leicester.
I can be.
Appreciate your honesty, sir. I appreciate your honesty. I'm going to stick with what I said earlier, which was 3-0. Simply because that's what I've already committed to. So, but just last couple of bits. I know you've got to go in a second, Pete.
Okay.
But just very quickly, being at both, this surprised me, and I could have gone for Nigel Pearson, could have gone for Claudio Ranieri,
Brendan Rodgers.
yeah,
Jordan Stewart.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually there is quite a lot. But I like to go for one that surprises me. That I look at it and go, "Wow, I didn't know that," and I didn't know, or I knew and I'd forgotten that Kevin Phillips, Kevin Williams possibly as well, but certainly Kevin Phillips, 59 games for you guys, Pete, 94 to 97, 24 goals in 59 games. That was a hell of a return.
He was a hell of a player. There you go. I've got his book there. He was a heck of a player. He was signed from non-league Baldock Town on the basis that, and this is one for supporters of a certain age, a certain gentleman called Nigel Callaghan, who used to be, Watford, pretty much still Watford's best right back ever, to be quite frank, would go down and train with Baldock, and he was the only one who could do stuff with him. And we signed him under Glenn Roeder, and he scored a hat full of goals, was a whole lot of fun. And you could see he got that physicality where he could actually, as a small striker, he could still hold the ball up. He just got everything that you could see. But it was his first time playing. He got an injury as Glenn Roeder basically got the sack, and Graham Taylor came in. And I think Taylor Taylor said, actually he didn't realise how good he was. It was a real unfortunate one that he basically offered him a kind of a salary, which was what he was already on, having moved from, non-league. And it was like, well, hold on, look at the goals I've scored. I've done pretty well. I deserve something more. So he got an offer from Ipswich and Sunderland, and went to Sunderland. And of course we know what happened there. As I say, he was after that do not scratch your eyes goal, which I have to cling on to as the last vestige of respect for Watford today. We went and played Crystal Palace. He was down at Palace and he scored the winning penalty in that. And then, of course, he came to you guys for a last hurrah, but was on your coaching staff with Big Nige for quite some time.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, he's now you've brought him up, Chris. He's a very good benchmark for Tom Cannon in terms of that goal doesn't move. I'll just, when the ball comes to me, I'll just move it and hit it, and I see a lot of similarities with Tom Cannon. And if he can have the same impact with us as Phillips had at Watford and Sunderland, I'll be very happy. That's for sure.
Yeah, it didn't. Only 12 games with us, in fairness. 2 goals. I was able to actually saw one of those. So I've one of the few people that's seen Phillips score in a Leicester show, which was away at Bournemouth when he did his famous Zimmer frame bad back celebration. But yeah, as I say, and then went on to the. I wish we'd got him earlier in his career, but obviously wasn't to be. But good player, obviously. And finally, Pete, you'll be pleased to know, away fans coming down to Watford. What's the parking and away pubs like?
Probably the best thing to do is park in near the town centre. There is also the Watford Grammar Girls, which is quite close, which you'll see kind of signs for. The pubs, probably the Wetherspoons. If you're coming down, kind of by train or what have you, then you'll be going through the town centre in order to come through. There's a Wetherspoons called the Moon Underwater, which allow fans of everybody coming through. I mean, we're Watford. We're not, there's no, there aren't every village has got one, but ours aren't too bad. And then there's also the Oddfellows Arms, which is just around the corner from the ground as well, which is which we'll be pleased to see. Because last week we had Cardiff, so it'd be nice to see some opposing fans with opposable thumbs. That'd be nice for
them. Pete, thank you very much for coming on. Your link is in the description below. I would wish you all the best, but obviously I wouldn't mean it. But for the rest of the season after the weekend, do wish you all the best. Again, just give a shout out where people can find you.
Yeah, do not scratch your eyes. Do not scratch your eyes.com. You've got then all the links to go to everywhere. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, that would be lovely because we're reasonably funny and stupid. DNSYE _podcast on Twitter. We'll see.
Craig's one of those. I'm not sure which though. Mate, thanks very much. It's gone on a bit longer than I thought it would do, but all the best, mate. And like I say, hope you get stuffed on Saturday, but good luck after that.
No trouble, gents. Enjoy promotion.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye. There we go. Craig, thank you very much, sir.
Welcome, mate. Welcome.
Your Twitter, how can people find you on, or X as it is now, I should say?
At Craig Bird.
Yes.
That's all you need to find me on Twitter.
For
a few more followers. That'll be good.
For wise words about football. That went on a little bit longer than planned. I do apologise, but there we go. But no, good show. Enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, it's a nice guy.
Good debate. Good debate on both sides. Are you going to Watford?
No, unfortunately, again, it's these games where it's fairly local. It's not that difficult. It's difficult to get a hold of tickets for some of these away games. But no, I've been there before, and it's not a ground to revisit on many occasions.
Probably not. No, I'm purely asking because I am actually featured in the program, the match day program this week.
Are you? Well,
I'm trying to find somebody that's going because every time that the guy messages me to answer his question, I go, "No, can you send me a program because I'm not going? Can you send me?" And he doesn't answer, so I'm trying to find somebody that's going.
Right.
Excuse me.
I'll ask around, Chris, and see if anyone can get one. Are you hoping to get a ticket for the cup game?
I am hoping, but I am extremely unlikely that I'm going to because, to put it bluntly, it's a shed. Bournemouth, and there's about 300 fans in, and that's all it is. And the guy that used to get me the tickets at the club no longer works for the club, and I can't even cheat myself into getting into the Bournemouth end like I used to.
Do you not get your BBC accreditation?
No, I should. That's a point. Actually, I should contact the BBC. Can I go in? Can you? Yes, that's a good point. I should ask that, but I don't think it's going to work somehow. or Talk Sport. I could be there man at the ground, couldn't I?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Come on, Chris. Pull some strings.
No, I'd love to. I mean, to be totally honest with you, I would love to, but I just unfortunately, because of the size of the ground, You know, there's no way that is going to get to where I am on my points to be able to.
No, me neither.
You know, but look, have a good weekend, mate. Thank you so very much for coming on. Take care, and we'll speak to you. Are you available on Monday when we're doing Sheffield Wednesday?
I should be okay. I'm gonna say it's going to be a little bit tight, but I should be able to get there.
If we've started, just pop on when you get in. Yeah, brilliant. Have a good weekend, and come on, you Foxes.
Cheers. Thanks. See you, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks to Craig there, as always. We are going to be back tomorrow at 7 o'clock for the prediction show. I won't be, because I don't do that now, because I do a radio show on Monday night, on Friday night. So I concentrate on that. Yeah, all the best, Craig. Thank you so very much for sticking with us. So, join us tomorrow at 7 for the prediction show. And then 2:15, we will be here, as you can see here. Let me just bring this in there. There we go. That will do. Matchday Live Saturday at 2:15 here live on the show, when we will be doing the pre-match, when the teams are announced, the watch-along, and the post-match reaction as well. If anybody is going to the match and they know somebody that can get me a copy of the programme, give them a shout for me. I would really do appreciate it. But if you are going to the match, check out the programme. I've been answering some questions for Watford. So you might not agree with me, but then again, nobody ever does. There we go. But thanks so much if you have been watching. Thank you very much to Scott and everybody else in the chat. Thanks to Craig, and of course thanks to Pete from Do Not Scratch Your Eyes. And thank you to everybody if you have been listening via your favourite podcast platform. I appreciate it. Take care. Have a good weekend. All the best.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
The TalkSport Fan Network is the ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts,
including Leicester Till I Die, independent analysis and reaction for the Foxes faithful.
The TalkSport Fan Network.
Unbeatable club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Follow the podcast on the TalkSport Fan Network.